Hey everyone. Thank you guys for joining. It looks like we already have 10 people. That's awesome. Just gonna give a couple more minutes here, maybe just like a minute to have people join in. But while we're waiting, if everybody could put where they're joining in from in the chat, and yeah, we'll get started here.
Sweet.
All right. Well, I think while we're waiting, a good place to start here, Daisha, is tell us a little bit about you. How did you get into short-term rentals? Like what what got you into this? Give me the whole scoop.
Well, my name is Dashia LoCoco, and I moved to Jacksonville about 2 years ago. Prior to living here, I lived in California. I'm from Indiana originally, New Hampshire, Boston, Tennessee, kind of been all over. I was a traveling nurse before I started real estate. And got into short-term rentals, funny enough. When I was living in Los Angeles, I was Airbnb-ing my extra bedroom and just kind of fell in love with it. Honestly, I was like, wow, this is great. I could definitely keep doing this.
Yeah,
So,
that's
um,
awesome.
yeah, so we actually moved to Jacksonville, sight unseen. Oh, there's an echo. Let me see if that's me. Um, we had never been here before. So we started an Airbnb and decided we were going to move here.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, let's jump right in. So, I think the biggest question here, and what I always like to start these webinars with, is, why is Jacksonville such an emerging market right now, and why should investors be paying attention to it?
Yeah, so Jacksonville's not really on anybody's radar, honestly. Um, so it's kind of interesting when I talk to people because they get matched with you guys, of course. And then they're like, I didn't even know about Jacksonville. Like, you think of Florida, you don't really think of Jacksonville. But it's exciting because there's so much redevelopment and development that's happening in the downtown area that people don't know about. So it's a wonderful time to get in just for people to be able to capture appreciation in my market, but also because there's so much more tourism that's going to be coming here. So it's kind of neat to be on the ground floor of that. Also, we don't really have any super properties to say. So any of the investors that come in and actually do the top tier design, they're going to be one of the first to do that. So it's why this market's so great. Oh, I
And
can't hear you. Sorry.
can you hear me now?
Yep, there you are.
Okay. Um, I know in the past you have mentioned like the stronghold that a church had on the downtown area, so that's why you're seeing a lot of development now, which is super exciting. And I think that's going to be a really good selling point for investors to get in now before it really explodes. And obviously, prices will go up. So I definitely love to hear all of that. Um, who would you say, like, from an investor standpoint, like who is Jacksonville a great fit for from an investor standpoint?
Yeah, so we they just finished the Prime Osborne Convention Center. So there's a lot of business that comes here. People relocating here. There's a lot big military base here as well. So people who are relocating, they usually use Airbnbs or short-term rentals to stay in while they're looking for a place to live, just like we did. And that market is really, really good. But as far as tourism, there's also a lot of medical tourism. So we have the Mayo Clinic, we have Baptist, Wolfson's Children's, Nemours Children. Um, yeah, there's a lot of hospitals here. So a lot of people will come in, traveling nurses and families that stay for the Mayo Clinic. And, they don't really want to stay in a hotel for the amount of time that they're here. So they love the short term rentals. And then, as downtown develops, there's going to be a lot of people coming in for everything that's happening here as well. So it's kind of an exciting market to be in. Also, we have a lot of families. So people who know Jacksonville, they like to come here because it's very family oriented. Usually our beach market is larger groups of families. We also have a lot of golf courses. So Sawgrass TPC is here, hosted here yearly in Ponte Vedra, and we get a big crowd for that as well. Of course, sporting events, the Jaguars, yeah, just events mainly people are coming in for.
MJ asked in the chat, I figure since we're on this topic, you kind of already touched on what tourism will be coming to Jacksonville. They also asked, what appreciation do you believe will occur in that market?
Yeah, so I mean, as you know, during COVID, a lot of these markets like Miami, Tampa, St. Petersburg, those blew up during COVID. And so that's kind of stabilized. But this market is a little bit different just because the Baptist church had a stronghold on downtown. So when they had that land, they didn't allow for anything to come in here. So nobody really thought of Jacksonville because Jacksonville was kind of a ghost town. You know, it was like just families. If you knew people who lived here, you'd come to visit. But now that it's opening up and, you know, restaurants, bars, shops, shopping centers, arts districts, like now that that's all coming to fruition, you know, appreciation is going to be a lot here in this market. So it's good because Florida's a great place to invest anyways. You know, zero state income tax, and it's very landlord friendly. Oh, I can't hear you again. I'm sorry. It keeps muting.
Oh, I don't know why sorry guys, I don't know why my thing keeps muting. Um, yeah, so somebody else asked too, what type of occupancy do you see in Jacksonville?
So it depends because our market is so big. So when you get into AirDNA, you're seeing very low numbers because it's taking an average of the entire area. So Jacksonville is the biggest county and city per land mass in the United States. So when you get in there and you pop in, we have so many different little pockets. The AirDNA just takes that and makes it into one big pocket. And so it really doesn't separate the neighborhoods that do really well in short term rentals. Also, a few years ago, we did have a 7-day minimum, which since has dissipated. So I think a lot of people maybe looked into Jacksonville previously, or they get into AirDNA and AirDNA still says that it's not allowed for short term rentals. So they automatically turn away from the market. So it's interesting because, you know, we rely on all of this data from these platforms, but sometimes the platforms aren't correct. So that's why you work with a savvy agent who knows the market, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And on like the note of numbers, what would you say investors need for like an initial budget to enter your market? And what does that look like, right? Like what types of properties do really well in your market and what can they plan on investing into the property itself once they purchase?
Yeah, so that's very neighborhood dependent as well. If you're in the downtown market where the most appreciation is happening with all of the developments and redevelopments, you're going to see the neighborhoods of Springfield, which is more historic homes. These areas are historic. So when you do these, you have to realize you come into this market understanding that the houses in the downtown area were built in the early 1900s. And that means that they usually require some renovation, which you can capture on depreciation. So it's not terrible, but you do have to put a little bit of work into those. There are some turnkey, there are some that are, you know, already done because people are really ready for this shift. So people came in early, bought low, and did the renovations, and now they're selling. So you can get some turnkey as well. But some of those require renovation, and those entry points are usually about 500 to 600, and the Springfield area. And then Riverside and San Marco are also two very good neighborhoods adjacent to downtown, right off of the river. So the St. Johns River runs through these neighborhoods that I'm talking about. And so I'll go through all the redevelopments and developments as well, so you guys can see it firsthand. But yeah, so this is going to be great for appreciation plays mainly. But you also have the beach. We have Jacksonville Beach, Fernandina Beach, Ponte Vedra Beach, and those are more established areas for short-term rentals. So those price points are going to be a little bit higher. So of course you're at the beach. Those are going to be more of your 800 to like 1.2 entry points. And those do very well. Some of those are seeing upwards 150, 175 at this point. But keep in mind that nobody's really doing that top tier design. It's all very basic beach, white walls, like they're pretty, but it's something that stands out to stop the swipe, stop the scroll.
I don't know why it keeps muting. Sorry. It said, Edka said, from what you described, um, as Jack's special areas of interest, midterm rentals or long-term rentals seem to be more appropriate as compared to short-term rentals. Please, comment on this.
Yeah, so midterm rentals are popular. Long-term rentals, not so much. Short-term rentals, that's just a really great way to kind of turn it around and say, hey, if we don't have a ton of short-term rentals, maybe we need to tap into that a little bit more. Or maybe you come in and you do that top tier design. So people who are coming in for games and events, and a lot of people are driving into Jacksonville for weekends. So it's more of a local market. But our airport expansion is happening right now. So we're going to have a lot more direct flights. There are more cruise lines that are coming to our port. So there's going to be an influx of tourism in that manner. Plus, I just feel like, when downtown, when all of this ends up actually happening, it's going to start to register with people and they're going to want to come here more. It's going to get on people's map a little bit more.
Awesome. What amenities would you say are important and help drive higher revenue in your market?
Yeah, so it's Florida, so you gotta have a pool. And we do have a couple months, like, people think of Florida and they think it's hot year round, but we do get 2 seasons. So I'd say we get fall and we get summer. So January, February are shoulder seasons, and you really kinda need a hot tub during that time. So it'd be good to have a hot tub and a pool. And then, like I said, the design. If you're hiring companies like Funkit and Summerlet and Ashita, like, you're gonna stand out in this market right away. And nobody's doing that yet. So, it's a great opportunity for people to get in and say, all right, well, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna raise the bar because nobody's raised the bar yet for that to happen.
And one more question in the chat. Sorry, I'm instead of waiting until the very end, I thought we could just kind of answer as we go.
Okay.
Nikki asked, "What are the developments happening in Jax right now?" I think you kind of touched on this earlier, but just to like reiterate to answer her question.
Yeah, I'm gonna take you guys through. Would this be a good time to do that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Yes.
All right, perfect. So I will share my screen so you guys can see. Oh, and I wanted to pull up AirDNA just to kind of show you guys. So our Springfield market, like just for instance, of all of our markets here. So this is not Springfield by any stretch of the means. So when you pop into here and you say, "Oh, Springfield's a great market," and you look, you're like, that's not Springfield." But if you weren't from here, you wouldn't really know that. So if you come in and you scroll in a little bit, our urban core, this is Springfield. So all of these redevelopments and developments are happening right along the river here in this area. So the Everbank Stadium, that's getting a $2 billion renovation. They're bringing in an MLS soccer team. They're adding parks all the way down here. Main Street, who goes through Springfield. This is getting bars and shops and restaurants in addition, as well as downtown on the river. And then in the Phoenix district, we have Tony Cho, who redid the Wynwood area. In Miami, he came here and he's doing an arts district here in Phoenix. And then just to kind of take you along, here's Brooklyn. And Brooklyn also is, they have a Whole Foods coming in. And as you know, Whole Foods always does their market research in an area. So it's going to be really nice there. Five Points in Riverside and Avondale are a little bit more established neighborhoods. We have some great short-term rentals. This is actually where I purchased my place. So I have a fourplex that we're currently renovating. That's going to be a wellness short-term rental to tap into my nursing side. And San Marco right here. So on the South Bank, they just finished phase 1 of the River Walk here and Friendship Fountain. So that's all happening downtown. But if you go into AirDNA, I mean, obviously, you know, some of this is not accurate. So I have Neptune Beach does not allow and Atlantic does not allow, but Jacksonville Beach allows short-term rentals. And then you're getting into Ponte Vedra as you go south here. So I just wanted to show you that. And then I have some slides I was going to go through. So Jacksonville is the #1 emerging STR investment market you're not looking at. So smart investors are going to move Northeast Florida now and get in on this appreciation too. So you can cash flow here. I do just want to say that cash flow is good, but we have the appreciation and then of course tax benefits with short-term rentals. So our largest
I wanted to ask you one thing. MJ in the chat said I was looking to buy long-term rentals in this area. Is there, since we're talking about that, like any advice for them why having a short-term rental in Jacksonville would be better than a long-term rental? Can you touch on that?
long-term rentals don't make a ton of money here right now. A lot of the houses that I see, the rent average versus how much they're going for doesn't cover the mortgage. So unless you're buying a property that you're going to renovate and capture the money from that, then I don't think that it's a great investment to do long-term rentals. Not to say that you couldn't start in short-term rental, get your cost seg, get your 100% bonus depreciation, and transfer over into it as rents start to catch up. That would be what I would do if, you know, it were me, but it depends on, you know, how risk averse you are and how much you want to be able to put into a renovation.
Awesome, thank you. I just wanted to capture that while we were literally talking about it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So we get 8.2 million visitors and we generate about $8 billion currently in economic impact. And this information is across all of Jacksonville. So like I said, it is an average of every single neighborhood and not neighborhood dependent. So $333 a day for average visitor party spends, and 80% plan to return. A lot of people come here and they don't realize how nice it actually is. We have 22 miles of white sand beaches, and we have a ton of recreation. So that actually surprised me when I moved here. I wasn't prepared for that, but there's a ton of rivers and springs and hiking and outdoor parks and amenities. So there's a lot to do here when you come here. It's not just the beach. And then, of course, it's an intersection for Florida. So if you're coming in, most people I talk to are like, yeah, I've driven through Jacksonville, but I've never stopped. So it is a good location for that. And then, of course, no state income tax. Landlord-friendly laws, which is one of the reasons we moved to Florida. And then we're actually one of the #1 in population growth in Florida. So it's a great market because a lot of corporations are coming here as well. And then there's actually $6 billion now in active downtown development and almost $2 billion for Stadium of the Future, the shipyard. So the owner of the Jags, Shad Khan, he has just been putting a lot of money into the redevelopments of downtown. So he has the Four Seasons that he's building right now, including the Everbank Stadium renovation, and then River's Edge Park. So that's going to be hotel rooms. We have 2 marinas that are coming, which is interesting because I don't really think of many other areas that have like luxury yacht marinas in Florida besides maybe Miami. So it's going to be really cool to see that. And then I talked about Pearl Square and Phoenix Jacks, so the Phoenix district, and we'll go through all of that. So I'll actually be able to show you. So over 100 active projects that are being tracked currently by the DIA, the Downtown Investment Authority. Our first ever 5-star hotel with the Four Seasons. So obviously, if you're in these downtown markets, then you're going to capture that appreciation because all of this build that's happening is just insane. So that's a really good reason to get in here. Anyways, Fernandina Beach, of course, it's a high income earning place. It's a little similar to St. Augustine, but a little bit more off the map. A lot of people don't know too much about it. It's kind of a little secret. And then Jacksonville Beach, top performers, we usually see about 70 to 80% occupancy with those, especially the ones that are doing really well, and they reach 120K plus. So these are the different areas that are best for short-term rental. And then, of course, with anything, strategic design and value adds, you're going to do really well with those. So with Savvy, we only look at things that are 12% cash on cash or more. And with the forced appreciation, you're going to get even better than that. I have a lot of multifamilies here, which is a great play, which is what we did. So we bought the fourplex. And I like that one to touch on in the comments, transitioning into different exit strategies for after. So, 1 year short-term rental, get your cost seg and your bonus depreciation. And then you can have one that's a short-term rental, one that's a midterm rental, one that's a long-term rental. You have the flexibility with it when you do that. So lots of multifamilies here.
I love that, and, um, just kind of touching on because it's such a good time to enter the Jacksonville market, I wanted to touch on, like, the seller side of things, right? Like, if people get in now and, get set up as a short-term rental, what does it look like in the next, like, 3 to 5 years if they wanted to turn around and sell their investment? Like, what would that look like?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you'd get a really great return, or even just refinancing it and pulling out that cash to do it again. Like
Mhm.
either way, there's a lot of exit strategies here. So, but yes, that's probably my favorite play just because this is one of the last markets in Florida that you can get into at this price. That's a city that it hasn't already been done yet. So,
Yeah.
a lot of these projects finish in late this year and 27 and 28. So by 2028, if you're purchasing now and 2028, you're going to see quite an increase in the value of your home.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that. I definitely wanted to touch on like what it looks like to acquire an asset and then sell it later down the road and really expand or like grow your portfolio. Um, a question that
100%.
I
Yeah.
wanted to touch on real quick before we move on is somebody asked Ekta asked what type of profit margins are you seeing for people that have like a management service managing their property?
Well, I mean, it depends on how much they're taking. Are they taking 10%? Are they taking 20%? I always try to tell my clients, the first year, if you are doing it for tax benefits, you should be doing a lot of it yourself just because, you have to show that you put more time and effort into that short-term rental than anybody else did. So, that's another reason why when you're starting and you're getting this appreciation and people are catching on to Jacksonville, more tourism is going to be coming in. So maybe the first year, you do it yourself. And then the second year, you start to incorporate as you're getting a higher cash flow. And of course, your first year in a short-term rental, like you're not completely optimized yet. Obviously, like you're going to be, working out all the kinks, figuring out your price revenue strategy, figuring out which design works, marketing that property, branding that property. So, like it takes a little bit to build a business. And short term rentals are just the same. So I would say it cuts into the profit quite a bit, but not that it can't be done.
Got it. And just the last question here before we move to the next slide. what is the entry point for multifamily homes? I know you were touching on that's what you guys did.
Yeah.
What's entry level price points?
Yeah, so a lot of those, dependent on the neighborhood, but I'd say the range is about 700 roughly, 550, 600, 700, 800. You're gonna be right around there, depending on the square footage. So if it's a bigger property, you're gonna be closer to 800. There are some multifamilies available at the beach as well. Those are gonna be closer to a million to 1.5. But yes, that's a good question too. And those downtown usually require a little bit of renovation, so you will have to put some money into that, but a lot of times we try to capture that on, some seller credits.
That was gonna be my next question is they're not typically turnkey at that price point, so, always take into consideration, like, what you have to put towards renovations and design.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And a lot of the play here is going to be, garage ADUs. So for an extra apartment, a lot of the Springfield neighborhoods have the shotgun style homes. So they're long properties. And so there is room almost always to put some kind of garage apartment on the back of those, and then have your pool, hot tub in the middle. And that's a really good play here. Okay. So the window is open now, but a lot of people were really upset that they missed the COVID window. And I feel like that's exactly what they're going to be saying about Jacksonville in a couple years when they say, oh man, I really wish I would have done that then. So, Jacksonville medium home prices are still about 30 to 40% below Miami, Tampa, Orlando. We have great STR regulations. Here we used to have the 7 day. We don't have the 7 day. There's no minimum stay, but you do have to comply with parking. You need to comply with, you know, quiet hours for your neighbors. Those are the things that they're looking for. So when I'm looking for a property, I'm usually looking for something that's in a little bit more transient area. I don't want to put you in a single family home where your neighbors are going to be upset about pool parties all the time. I want to put you somewhere where, you're going to be successful in functioning your short-term rental there. And right now, a lot of construction workers are creating a massive midweek STR demand, because they're there to do all of the construction. So that's a good one to get into right now. So, if you're one, you just want to get in for the appreciation, you can kind of hold off on doing all those renovations and have the construction workers in there and just kind of function basically like that. And then once those projects are done, then you can do your renovations and your design and you can capture, the other side of the short-term rental on that space. So we have the Gator Bowl here and the Gate River Run every year. We have the Florida Georgia game, which is a big driver, especially for downtown. We had the Players Championship, which I spoke about, TPC Sawgrass, Jacksonville Jazz Sea and Air Show, and then we have a lot of sports, so a ton of sports downtown. Military, PCS relocations, new direct flight, airport and cruise line expansions, medical tourism, and all the parks and the Emerald Trail. And I'll go through all those so you guys can see them. Yeah, so we'll hit on this one in a little bit, but I'll go through some of these transformations. I will show you first the development map. So this is the DIA website. And this just kind of goes through, it shows you everything that they're building currently. So some of these projects are already underway, some of them are permitted, and some of them are plans. But this is everything that's happening in the area that it's happening in. So Brooklyn, La Villa, downtown, and San Marcos South Bank.
And you're saying because of all of the development that is currently happening, that's why the appreciation in the next 3 to 5 years is gonna be so great. 'Cause MJ just asked that or he they said appreciation was flat over the last year. Where are you getting this appreciation will be great on his question. So, um, I know, like, talking all the developments going on, that's really what's gonna drive, property value going up in the next, like, would you say 3 to 5 years?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like I said, a lot of these projects are finishing the end of this year, 2027, 2028. So, even since I moved here 2 years ago, like you could get into properties in this area around 3 to 400K. You can't get into that anymore right now as is. And that's just going to keep going up. So obviously, as a city transforms itself, you're not going to be flat or less than that, right?
Yeah, especially
Eh,
if they're putting, like, effort into, renovations and design, like, you're already forcing appreciation automatically by doing that.
Yeah, 100%. Because nobody else is doing that yet. So you'd be one of the first. So Pearl Square is a neighborhood. It's next to Springfield in downtown. So $750 million investment. And this is what's happening right now. So these are the ones that are coming, and these are the ones that have already started, the green ones. So this is a whole area of a downtown neighborhood. It's getting residential units, mixed use, retail, office space, hotels, and parks. Publix, which we don't have downtown yet. Gotta have a Publix in every neighborhood. And then just the urban living shops, restaurants, bars. So that's one of the projects. The Phoenix Arts District has finished its first development, and then it's going into phase two. So this is going to be an arts district, mixed use space, 8.5 acres. This is in an area that is not, super developed yet of Springfield. It's North Springfield. So in like 2005, 2006, people started to renovate the homes in Springfield. They're old, gorgeous, historic Victorian homes. And people, did the same thing back then. They thought, oh, Springfield's going to be a great area. We're going to start to redo these houses. We're going to make this neighborhood nice. And then in 2008, the market crashed. So a lot of these homes, they started out, there's like a few blocks of really beautiful, gorgeous, renovated homes. And then as you start to span out from that, it's just now picking back up. So the Emerald Station, I will go over that as well. We got the Four Seasons. It's absolutely stunning. So this is it. This is going to be right along the water, and they're adding the luxury yacht marina. Oops, stop scrolling. So this one I do believe is going to be 78 slips, and then there's one that's going to be a little bit further down that's 125. And back here is the new Jag Stadium. The South Bank, which is the San Marco, just on the other side, is River's Edge. So phase one of this just completed. It's beautiful. There's walking paths, there's parks, there's new townhomes that are starting at 750, which is really crazy for this area that they believe that they can go for that already, which just goes to show you that there's already appreciation built in. So all the parks, it's really pretty.
Will you
And
be
then
able to share these links with us, Daisha, at the
yeah,
end? MJ was asking. Well, and maybe
definitely.
some of your slides as well. That would be great.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Awesome.
Okay, so this is the Emerald Trail system, and this is going to connect 14. This one only shows 7, but it's supposed to be 14 different neighborhoods when they're completed with it. So these are going to be walking, biking paths that you can get to each of these neighborhoods very easily. So Riverside, Brooklyn, San Marco, Phoenix District, Springfield, downtown, La Villa, all of these areas right here. So honestly, if you're looking for long-term rentals, then I would start over here because these areas have not developed yet. But as you can see where they're putting the walking paths, they will eventually develop. So if you're looking for a low entry point that you can rent now, then you could do these areas. These areas downtown and Riverside and San Marco are already, priced at the rate that is going to be a little higher for the rents that are in place now. And then the stadium renovation. So this is going to be really cool too. And hopefully, as a Colts fan from Indiana, the Jags can make it happen here. But this is going to be really beautiful.
Yeah, it seems like they're doing a lot of extensive development, and it's really gonna be somewhere where people wanna visit for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, they're definitely repositioning it because they have the opportunity now. Like before they didn't really have the opportunity to do that. And so they're not able to. But now they have like a free for all and everybody they're taking advantage of it. The city is excited about this and the city's on board. So they want people to come in and make these houses more valuable. They want them to put money into them. They want to make this city, you know, put it on the map, really. So this area right here, this is not going to be downtown. This is going to be a little bit closer, like in between downtown and the beach. There we have an outdoor shopping center, St. John's Town Center, and this is going to be a sporting club that they're putting in mixed use in that area. So this one's going to be really cool as well. And then we just had the Block Jacks, which opened, and that's an outdoor venue. And then we have public transit that has expanded. So we have a new autonomous vehicle innovation that is functioning downtown. So right now, I believe it's like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I expect for those numbers to go up as more tourism happens. But this is something that people who are going to be here can get downtown using. And I do believe it's free.
That's really exciting, that's cool.
No, there's so much, right? And then the Shipyards area, so it's not just the Jag Stadium and the Four Seasons, but this whole area here is being developed. So, I do believe it used to be the fair was here, and now they bought all of that. So they're moving the fair elsewhere, and they're just expanding this to more parks and outdoor space. And then the Music Heritage Park is coming, so this is really cool. This is going to be like an outdoor music venue. So it's shaped like a music note, which is kind of cool. But I think they're going to be holding like volleyball and sporting events here as well, like for the community to partake in. And oh, I don't see it on here. Hold on. Oh, yes, right here. So the space reentry. So Jacksonville has applied for its license to become a major hub for spaceflight operations. So this wouldn't be going out, but this would be landing, which is kind of neat. So I do believe that will draw a lot of tourism as well. So they're starting to work on that right now. We have our first boutique hotel. And the marinas here. So these are going to be the marinas. So the river's beautiful, like a lot of people think about the beaches and they think the beach is great, and you don't really realize how beautiful the river is as well. So they're going to have the marina, the park here. Oh my goodness, look at all that.
That
Yeah, so
looks crazy.
I know, it's insane, I'm telling you. So,
Awesome.
yeah, that's kind of what's happening in Jacksonville. That's why it's not really on anybody's radar right now, and
Yeah, I
it's a
think
good time
that's
to
all
here.
such helpful information for people that didn't even really think about Jacksonville as being a short-term rentals market. So, um, I love that
That's
you
fun.
shared all that, and obviously we want to get those links for everybody. Um, Before we wrap up, Dacia, I think the main thing I wanted to end with here is explain a little bit like what does it look like to work with you, and how does your step-by-step process with investors usually go? Like from the intro call, like what's so beneficial in working with a savvy agent?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you get so much more than you would get with a regular agent by working with Savvy. So we have a lot of resources, and this year especially, we've just kind of blown up and expanded, and working on new partnerships, and pretty much just trying to be a one-stop shop. So first of all, you'll have a call with me. So my link is www.savvy.realty/Dashia, Dashia.
We'll put it in the
And
chat.
perfect. Yes, drop it in the chat. So you'll book a call with me, and we'll go through. This is usually what I go through with my clients when we have the call. We kind of narrow down what your budget is, if you have money for renovations up front, how much money you have to put towards design, because I want my clients to understand that you really have to put that top tier design in. You can't just do a basic, a regular, like you did in COVID times, short-term rental. You really got to put some money and some design behind it to attract people. But on the other side of that is just having a great property that you have built. If you start now, then you can get all your reviews, and you can get your marketing, and you can get all your kinks worked out, so that when people do start to catch on to Jacksonville, you're already established in this market. You're here, so it's not waiting until that happens. You've already done it. You're ready. So I always try to, say that. But we have the call, we go through everything together. We kind of, do you have your pre-approval? Have you talked to a lender? Do you know what kind of financing you want? Are you doing DSCR? Are you doing a conventional second home? We just kind of nail down all of those things. And then once we get that, I can kind of point you in the right market. We find the home that you want that works well for you. And then you can yeah, market match. And then you can we'll get the house. We'll get the house that you want. So we'll start negotiations, put in the offer, go through all of that. We do have to realize that there's going to be some renovations, probably some seller credits that we're going to ask for. There might be some things that you need to do. And then, you get this up and running as a short-term rental. So, and then it doesn't stop there. So obviously, once you close, I'm not done with you and we never talk again. You're going to have access to the design teams that you want to work with. You're going to have access to my lenders that we work with. You're going to have access to pretty much everything you need to be up and running with your short-term rental. So
And as far as like finding the right property, I know you run performas on places, making sure that it makes sense for your clients. I think that's the biggest thing that is different from how savvy agents work compared to other maybe like residential agents who don't know how to break down the financials, right? Because that's ultimately what investors are looking for.
yeah, I mean, I get super granular with it because, as you can see, you go into AirDNA and there's some misinformation. So I'm the one who's boots on the ground. I know I'm friends with property management teams here in the area. I've established my network and my relationships. And I know how much these properties are making. So I can tell you, based on experience and knowledge of being in this market, what this property is actually going to do. Now, what you do with it after that is on you. If you say you're going to do this and you don't, then I have no control over that. But if you are doing everything that we're guiding you to do with Savvy, then you're going to do great here.
How would there's a question in the chat. How would you compare this market to Orlando?
Um Very different. So Orlando is, in my opinion, oversaturated. There are a ton of short-term rentals there. It's very competitive. So every property is a super property. You don't have that here. We don't have the super property yet. So you're coming in and you do the things that you need to do here that wouldn't stand out and stop the scroll in Orlando. It's going to stop the scroll in Jacksonville. So that's very, very different market. Also, we have all the outdoor activities, the river, the beach. If you buy downtown, you're 20 minutes from the beach. So, you Yeah, apples and oranges.
Gotcha. And the last question here so far in the chat is, how do you get compensated? I think a lot of people wonder that if there's like extra fees with Savvy or anything like that.
No,
I definitely agree. Does anybody else have any questions before we wrap up? I know we're coming up on time here. Um, Let me see if I had any questions for you.
yeah, shoot.
Um, if we don't have any more questions, my last question was, what is the biggest advice that you have for new investors looking to get into short-term rentals?
Oh, well, you need to do your research. You need to do your homework. I think a lot of people see online, all of the great benefits of it, but they jump into it without realizing that it is a business. So there's a lot of moving parts to it. I never want to get somebody into something and not have them be successful because that reflects on me as an agent. So I want you to be fully prepared and also just working with a savvy agent, like we are the people in our markets. They only allow one savvy agent per neighborhood or per area. And that's for the reason of being we are so specialized in what we know here. Like there is a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes of regulations. Like, is it okay on this street? Is it not okay on this street? And I see a lot of agents out there who are not well versed in this, who are selling properties that they say, oh, this would make a great short term rental, but they don't realize it's not allowed. And so, getting with a savvy agent that knows the market, knows what's happening, going to meetings, networking with people, having a vetted vendor list that we can give to them when they're ready to do the garage conversion or they need those renovations done. Like we're doing all of that for you on the back end and building those relationships and businesses. So I think, working with us, you get a leg up, especially in the short-term rental neighborhood.
Definitely. Um, Somebody asked, do you specialize in Jacksonville or do you also work in St. Augustine? I can kind of answer that as well. So Nikki is actually our agent in St. Augustine, and she runs the team all along the northeast coast of Florida. So Dacia is on Nikki's team, and we actually just did a webinar 2 weeks ago with Nikki. You can, we'll put the link to that in the chat as well. It's on our YouTube channel. Anytime we're doing any of these live webinars, the day after, we're putting it up on our YouTube channel so you can check any of our previous webinars if you guys are curious about any other of the markets that we've done webinars on. Um, so yeah, I hope that answered everybody's questions. If you guys feel like, you would like to get connected to Dacia and really get Jacksonville on the map for short-term rentals, we'll put a link to her calendar below, or you can also book a call with our team through the Market Match link, where you can talk to our inside sales team and really help nail down your budget, your goals, and we'll get you connected to our agents. Oh, awesome. You put it in the chat.
Yeah, and I put my
Awesome.
phone number there too.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. Dacia, it was a pleasure. I think you really
Yeah, thanks, guys.
provided a lot of good resources for people. And we'll get those, for anybody that's watching, we'll get those links and slides sent out to you shortly.
Perfect.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me.
Thank
Thanks for joining,
you.
guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.